and the privilege of speaking all over the world, and I get to speak to both secular audiences and Christian audiences. But this is the first time I've had a chance to ever be before a group of Christian entrepreneurs, and I love Paulo's two-headed coin because I think it's a really good and apt visual description of our kindred spirits that we have in this room. Christian entrepreneurs are marketplace leaders. And today, when those brothers from Hong Kong came up on the stage and prayed for Mark and Roma and their project and the work that they're doing, I believe there was a choir of angels that sang aloud in heaven. And I think the earth shook at that moment in time. And it all started because some entrepreneurs got the idea that they would make a movie, make a series, and that it would be shown around the world. And that's the beauty of what we all have in common, that spirit that's indomitable to create something special for the kingdom. I'm a bit of a storyteller, so I'll start a little bit with my story. It's a story of a family, my two brothers, Mark and Ed, who are my business partners, great Christian guys, and how God has moved in our lives. My journey began, we came from a working class family, not much money. Very strong Lebanese matriarchal society, very strong women. The men in our family were very strong, but the women were dynamic, entrepreneurial, and Christian leaders. And so that was the environment that I grew up in. I was the first person in our family to graduate college, and many others have followed since that time. I went straight from undergrad into the business world, and I worked 13 years in the corporate world. And in the early 90s, my two brothers and I got together and said, what would it be like if we came together? My youngest brother, Mark, had started a nutritional supplement company, and it was just beginning to grow. And so I dropped out of the corporate life, my brother Ed dropped out, and we all moved from our various locations to Boise, Idaho. And that company was right place, right time, and we were on our knees a lot because it's tough, as you know, to be an entrepreneur. And that company went from 0 in sales to $50 million in 3 years. And we were in 55,000 retail stores worldwide with the line of nutritional supplements. And in 1998, that company was acquired by a public company. So at the age of 39, I was ready to go do ministry. But nobody explained to me that I was already really doing ministry. And I think that's the theme of what I want to chat about today. So I'm going to kind of go to the end and tell you what we're doing now, and then work back and fill in the blanks. So full circle exchange, social enterprise for Christian impact, fuse the muse. Our mission is to empower women and whole communities to rise above poverty through economic opportunities that are sustainable and dignified. What is the opportunity? Around the world, women are rising, and the spirit of entrepreneurialism and innovation is sweeping the developing world. And by the way, look around the room. You know, women are rising. The sisters are with us here. Now, the only problem is there's not enough of them, okay? They represent half the sky. They are equal to us in every way. And when I come to business conferences, I'm still amazed how, even though the numbers are growing, you know, guys, I'm telling you, as Christian leaders, open the doors. Mentor that next generation of young women, Christian leaders, that next generation of young women entrepreneurs, because they are changing the world, with or without us, by the way. They're the driving force in economic growth in developing nations. Women are more than men. Entrepreneurs introduce innovations of new products and services in developing economies. The facts. There's a correlation between investment in women and poverty alleviation. There's a lessening of government corruption and greater prosperity, and women are the backbone of the global economy. The challenge. Women do 65% of the world's work, yet only earn 10% of the income, and they bear a disproportionate burden of the world's poverty.
I'm passionate about two things besides God and my family. It is business and how we can use that as a catalyst for social change. Not just social change, but women economic empowerment.
Full Circle Exchange is all about empowering women in whole communities to rise above poverty in ways that are sustainable and dignified and transformational.
And the women are excited about this partnership. We are all excited to go ahead for having this partnership with Full Circle. And this project, we are looking at it as going to be one of the best projects in Rwanda, which is going to empower as many women as possible.
I think that business has the real power in changing people's lives. And I knew that Full Circle and Gahaya Links had a commitment to change the women's lives. So it was up to us to make decisions that brought food home for these women and these children.
So how can three guys from Boise partner with women entrepreneurs from the poorest locations around the world and bring the products to the world's largest corporation, Walmart? It goes to show you the latent energy that's existing around the world with entrepreneurialism as a means to alleviate poverty. And I love what that young woman Faith said. What's important to me besides God and my family is business. I thought that was just really a poignant remark. And then you have major corporations, Walmart, Macy's in the US, among others, who are seeing that the consumers are changing. The consumers want transparency. The consumers want to know where the products are coming from. And these women are making a difference. Full Circle Exchange is a social enterprise, and that term gets bandied about back and forth. But a social enterprise is what it's meant to be. We believe that means it's a kingdom enterprise. It's an enterprise that, in addition to being sustainable in and of itself, and having a normative business model, does good on the planet, which for us is gospel. And poverty is gospel. Empowering women around the world is gospel from our perspective. As I mentioned, I was a corporate guy, then I became an entrepreneur. From there, we opened up a business incubator, and we launched multiple enterprises, both for-profit and nonprofit. But along the way, a business guy decided to go to seminary. So I attended Fuller Theological Seminary. I actually have a master's degree from there, if you can believe it. The last class I was in was business school. I showed up at Fuller having not been in the classroom for 25 years. And lo and behold, the first book I had to read, the first textbook, I didn't understand one word on the cover of the textbook. Hermeneutics is theological prolegomena. A non-canonical approach. I was in trouble, man. They were the ones doing the taking. So I quickly had to get the Webster's Thesaurus of, what is it, guys? Westminster's Thesaurus of Theological Terms, and keep it by me when I wrote my 107 papers. But Fuller Seminary really helped me to understand this concept of bifurcated life. Because, you know, all coming through my entrepreneurial experience, people were like, you're a business person or you are in ministry. You're a this or you're a that. And it never worked for me. I couldn't quite figure that out. We got into the film business, as was mentioned. We got into the social enterprise work. But when I told my pastor I was going to Fuller, he said to me as I was leaving the church one day, he said, I'm so excited you're going to seminary. And he said, get out of the world and get into the ministry. And that's John's former pastor. That's true. Sad but true. The Priddy Group is a business incubator, accelerator, scaler. We've created several for-profit companies, including Priddy Brothers Films, which you heard a little bit about. We make feature documentary films. I don't want to talk too much about it because, you know, we're like this big compared to our featured speaker this evening. But Mark Monitor, First to File, we've had good success in the companies that we've incubated and launched. We've had good success in the nonprofits that we've launched. The challenge was I couldn't figure out how to fuse the muse. Why was it a for-profit or a nonprofit? Why were you either in ministry or in business? Didn't make sense to me. And social enterprise became the place where the muse fused, okay? It was the place where we could actually create a model for ourselves that made some sense, and where we could create a business that not only did good, that not only had kingdom impact, but that in its core feels like both a business and a ministry at the same time, not a bifurcated thought. Former president of Fuller, Richard Mao, once told me, there are two biblical approaches Christians can take in the activity outside of the church, which of course we all do. We could ask, what the hell are you doing? Or what in heaven's name are you doing? And I think what in heaven's name are we doing is what's represented in this room today. Out of my time at Fuller, I really wanted to I wasn't much of a theologian, and I wanted to understand the theological underpinnings that really have helped me to understand how to fuse the muse, how to create a singular focus between business and ministry. And there's three things that have resonated for me, and these are the areas that I feel, for the work that we're doing, help me the most. Common grace, vocation, and ruach. It's a good word, ruach. Have any Hebrew scholars in the room that can tell us ruach? Common grace. The common grace of God is not a mere echo or a residue left over from the fall, so that humankind might not go to hell in a handbasket. Rather, it's an expression of the Spirit of God's continuing revelatory presence among us. And one arena of that divine activity is the creative endeavors of humankind. That's Dr. Johnson from Fuller. Common grace. Apostle Paul has been mentioned a couple times today. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His internal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. It's right there in the Scriptures, okay? It's not only the Scriptures, which I love. I love the Scriptures. If I had my way, I would spend all day in the Scriptures. But there's a whole world going on out there, and God's in it. Common grace. He's revealing Himself not only in the Scriptures, but also outside of the Scriptures. Vocation. As entrepreneurs, I recommend John Stott to you. He really has a great ability to talk about vocation. The whole of our life belongs to God and is part of His calling, both before conversion and outside religion. We must not imagine that God first became interested in us when we were converted, or that now He is interested only in the religious bits of our lives. And John Stott's one of those theologians who has really spoken to my heart about this vocation. I love the word vocation for the synergy, for the fusing of the muse. Ruach. And the earth was waste and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Ruach of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Spirit, the wind. Ruach is the same word as pneuma. The Spirit, the latent energy of God that hovered over the waters, is hovering in this room today, and is hovering over Hong Kong with that prayer, is real, and it's active, and it's moving. And as entrepreneurs, it's a big opportunity for us to understand where the wind blows. We may not understand the origins of where it comes from, but we can see where the wind is blowing. We know how to do that. So how did I take theological concepts and turn them into something that I could talk about from a secular standpoint? And we call them Priddy's pillars. And for us, these are the three pillars that we use to decide whether or not what we're doing is on track business-wise, but most importantly, with the Spirit of God in mind and from a theological standpoint. The inverted model, incremental enterprise, and radical collaboration. So, inverted model, and we'll use full circle as an example. It starts with the marketplace and it works backwards, okay? It's not a push model. I have an idea and I'm going to take it out there and I'm going to throw it against the wall and see what sticks. I'm going to start with the marketplace and I'm going to figure out what ideas make sense and I'm going to work back. That's the inverted model. In the case of full circle, which is retail products, we need to know what major retailers are doing that's important to inform the model. What categories of products are emerging? What categories are retailers having difficulty sourcing from a supply chain standpoint? Where can Full Circle become a solution? Where is the niche? Where is the opportunity? So in the context of Full Circle, the inverted model looks like that. Incremental enterprise. Now, some people in this room have been very successful, I'm sure, at doing the if you build it, they will come. Invest a lot of money. They see it. They're way out in front of the power curve, and they're able to do it that way. For us, we have to do incremental enterprise, bootstrap. It's the only way I can sleep at night. Even though I have great faith in God, I have much fear and trembling at the same time. So incremental pillar 2 says think big, but act small. You know, have a big vision, but cross your T's and dot your I's. Watch your cash flow. Don't get too leveraged. All those basic business principles. I also believe the spiritual implications of incremental enterprise allow you to stay in a de-stress mode, a de-risked mode, and be able to maneuver as God's wind blows. You can morph. People always say to us, "Oh, you Priddys are so successful. You never had any failures." I'm like, well, we've had a lot of failures. First of all, we just don't talk about them. We don't put them up on the board. But so many failures under this pillar morph before they go off the cliff. And so failure is not in and of itself a negative thing. Failure can turn into success. But if you're starting with a big idea and you're not growing incrementally, for us, it's more difficult to maneuver. And then pillar 3, radical collaboration. And this should be natural to those of us in the community of believers. It should be natural. These are some of the people we collaborate with, from the U.S. State Department to Oxford University to the UN to many foundations. But it's alliances, networks, clusters. And this is a network that you're among today, right? This is a network. Our table back there is already becoming close friends. And you don't know who is going to intersect with you at what time. But radical collaboration, I believe, is biblical. I believe it makes sense for the community of believers. And I feel like it mitigates risk. And as Roma said today, when one's tired, you know, somebody else needs to pick you up.
Women all over the world share the same dream, to create a better life for themselves and their families. But not all women have the same opportunities to realize that dream. That's why Walmart created Empowering Women Together, a global program giving women everywhere, from the remote villages of Africa to the urban cities of America, a chance to enrich their lives and recapture their pride. The concept is simple. A dedicated space on Walmart.com connects great products made by women-owned businesses around the world with shoppers all across the United States. The result is an economic cycle of change that fosters new jobs, builds businesses, and revitalizes communities everywhere, all made possible by the power of women who believe in a better world.
With the launch of Empowering Women Together, Walmart is using our size and scope to help women-owned businesses around the world succeed and grow.
No single group can do it on its own. What we need to do is come together. How do we move from a handout to a hand up? Just maybe there's a better way to do this.
By empowering women, Walmart believes it can help shape a better world for everyone.
So it's amazing. The world's largest retailer shaping a better world for everyone. Okay, now why? Well, they have their own reasons. I'm sure they are as long as the list of reasons one could have. But at the end of the day, the wind of God is moving. And I want to tell you a story about an example of some of the women that God's working with in this initiative. And it's about a tree in Rwanda. And after the 1994 genocide, Rwanda was faced with a gender imbalance, with many women left as widows, single mothers, wives, and husbands facing long jail terms, and teenage orphan girls. I mean, we say genocide very quickly. We move off of a topic like that very quickly. But picture in your mind 1 million people killed in months. And picture in your mind the women left behind. And what happened after genocide? The first thing is radical forgiveness and reconciliation. God moved into that country and created by only this wind of spirit, the movement of God, to create radical reconciliation in that place. But roads got rebuilt, clean water was created, cook stoves that were no longer toxic were given to women, fuel was easier to come by, and so women who had spent all day, every day, either schlepping for firewood, foraging for clean water, taking care of their sick children, there was infrastructure that got built. And with infrastructure came time, because then the women had more time. And what did the women do? They became entrepreneurs. They went to work. And they went to work because they were in need, right? Somebody said earlier today, you know, that stress, you know, you're in need. You need to make money because you have to put food on the table. Entrepreneurs are born for that environment. So thus was how the Rwandan women entrepreneurs became Gahaya Links, a company that was incorporated as the first handicrafts export company 10 years after the genocide. From a humble beginning under a tree in a remote village, the sisters, there were two sisters, Joy and Janet, organized about 20 women and taught them how to weave or how to enhance their weaving skills with new design techniques. They sat under a tree, weaving and weeping. Weaving and weeping, okay? Hutu and Tutsi, under a tree, 20 women. And sometimes no words were even spoken. But God was there. And the healing began, and the entrepreneurial spirit rose. If it were not for the spirit of entrepreneurialism, they would not be where they are today. The company manages a network currently of over 4,000 weavers across the country and organized in 52 savings cooperatives. Gahaya Links became the first Rwandan handcraft export company to benefit from AGOA, which enabled the company to penetrate the U.S. marketplace. Two sisters, strong believers. I wish they were here today. I wouldn't need to speak. They would take the pulpit from me, and they would tell you everything about Christian entrepreneurs, the two-sided coin, born out of stress and strain of genocide. So how do you take common grace, vocation, and ruach and pose them as questions? Common grace, what is God doing in your businesses, in the areas of your dreams and vision? Where is God already at work? Because as an entrepreneur, to carry the water up the hill by yourself, that's tough. If you look to where God's already at work, I believe common grace can come in. What is God doing? Vocation. Where does it align with your call, your expertise, spiritual gifts? So what could the women at Gahaya Links do? They could weave. They could weave. And so now God was creating what? Infrastructure in Rwanda? Roads, fuel, clean water, education, healthcare. God was allowing for all that to happen. God was creating reconciliation in Rwanda. These women were expert weavers. They taught other women to weave. And then the ruach. Where is their latent and God-breathed spiritual energy? Where is that, you know, one that turns into two that turns into 552? That leverage, that spiritual leverage. We've all seen it in our life. We've seen it with our children. Every once in a while, a little thing leverages. And we think that's the ruach. And so, common grace, vocation, ruach. Three theological underpinnings that have worked for us. My dear friend Craig Detweiler, who's an award-winning author and filmmaker, says it this way: we challenge you to look closer to discover the surprising message God may already be broadcasting through culture. Learning to look closer will take time. It will take work. It will take patience. But those willing to engage culture with eyes wide open may find themselves pleasantly surprised and spiritually energized. It begins with an appreciation of the created side of God, the goodness initiated in Genesis that continues through the Spirit's ongoing work today. Are you in business? Are you in ministry? Are you a for-profit? Are you a non-profit? My challenge today is to say, do away with those structures. By and large, created by, in one case, government tax agencies who say, you got to be a this or you got to be a that. That's all going to change in the next 10 years. It's all going to change. Are you in ministry or are you in business? I challenge you, if you're in business, you're in ministry. Full time, okay? And you know, what do they want us business guys to do? And this is no disrespect to the pastors in the room, but the first thing, well, if you sell your company, you're automatically a big donor. So don't sell your company. Keep it. Keep it. That's one. But two, oftentimes the church will ask you, will you serve on our administrative board? Oh, I'm the worst. You don't want me to be on your board. I'm not that guy. Doesn't mean we don't need great board members, but to take an entrepreneur and put them on the board of the church, you know, landscaping committee is a bad idea. Because that entrepreneur is going to be outside mowing the lawn himself or herself with a new type of lawnmower that prays and mows the grass at the same time. So my challenge today is I came out of a background of bifurcated thinking. I believe vocation is a good theological word to synergize it. I grew up in an environment where the women were equal to the men, still are. My mother's 85 years old, as is my father. They're equal in every way. My Lebanese mother from Brooklyn is louder. She's louder. But she is as much of an entrepreneur leader in our family as anybody has been, and has been there during the good times and the bad times, and has worked throughout her life. So, Full Circle Exchange is a social enterprise. It's an example of one of the things that we're trying to do to integrate business and ministry, social enterprise, and kingdom impact at the same time, and to try to fuse the muse, bring it all together and say it all belongs to God. We're all in it together, and I just encourage each and every one of you entrepreneurs to continue the work that you're doing. It's hard, it's tough, but the Spirit of God is moving, and we have, as we saw today, and we're going to see, I feel like I'm on the receiving end of this conference. You know, when Rick asked me to come and speak, I was delighted, but it's like, okay, I'll come in and speak, maybe I'll fly out. I am so delighted when I'm done talking. I am so tired of hearing the sound of my own voice. I can't wait to go sit back there and listen to the next speaker and the morning speakers, and of course tonight. So thank you to Jeff Tunnicliffe and to Rick and to all of you. God bless.